Welcome to another episode of the Game Informer Show. That's the show where we inform you and sometimes ourselves about games. I'm your host, Ben Reeves, joined today by an all-star crew, Jeff Cork.
Hey!
How's it going, buddy?
Doing well.
Great. Leanna Rupert is here. What up?
Basking in the glorious beardness that's going on right now. I'm jealous.
Yeah. I'm sandwiched between two great beards and I can't grow one. The owner of Beard Number 2, Alex Van Aken. How's it going?
Hello, that's me, Beard Number 2. Thanks for having me on.
There you go.
That's how I've always referred to you.
Yes, of course.
Of course, it's hard to beat Jeff Cork's beard. Jeff,
It is.
when did you first start growing a beard?
When did I first start growing a beard? Oh,
You're like 3?
When I was 3. No, a stupid beard probably like 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago. Before that, it was just a regular beard. But then you did give up at a certain point.
That's right. Of course. You gave up before the rest of us, so I'll give you props.
Exactly.
Cool. Well, we got a great show. Thanks for being here, guys. We got later on in the show, near the end of the show, we have an interview with IO Interactive folks. So we got the game director, Mattias Engström, and executive producer, Forest Swartout Large, both of whom worked on Hitman 3, which is, the big game of the week. So we talk all to them about the release of the game, what it was like launching and making VR for this version, and then also like what it's like to design a game with comedy in mind. They had some interesting thoughts there. So I know, Alex, you were there for that interview. Anything stand out?
It was a cool conversation to know kind of how, their mindset was going into this third game. And there's some cool insights in the interview, so stick around.
Yeah, so definitely stick around for that, and also stick around for this, the playlist. It's where we talk about the games we've been playing this week. Cork, speaking of Hitman, what have you been playing?
Hitman.
Oh,
you really set me up for that
Yeah.
one. Success. I love it. Yeah, I've been playing Hitman 3, and that game is very cool.
It is.
Ta-da!
Yeah, I know the review's already up on the site. You gave it a 9, which is a glowing score.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah, it's great. It's a really weird one though in a way, because it's the Hitman, like the World of Assassination trilogy, which, if we're being frank, if I never have to talk about that again, I'll be happy, because I just like the games. But just the combined total of this new rebooted Hitman is it's an interesting experiment, and I'm happy to report that IO Interactive, they pulled it off. So essentially, it's kind of this weird, I don't want to say it's like a Frankenstein kind of thing, because it was designed to be played and expanded upon as like Hitman's 2 and 3 were developed and released and everything. But yeah, it's great. You have this one umbrella basically that if you have been playing all the Hitman games, you can access any of the missions and any of that content in one place, so you don't have to bounce between I really like Sapienza, I'm going to play that level, but I got to boot up this version of Hitman, or I want to go to Miami, so let's start Hitman 2. It's just all in one place, which is convenience-wise very nice.
Yeah, we were talking about that a little bit before the show, and just as like a PSA for everybody, because I have like the Steam versions of the game.
Yes.
It's not on, the third one's not going to be on Steam, at least not right away. It's an Epic Store exclusive. So it sounds like some people are maybe having some trouble getting the versions to match up.
That's the thing, because I reviewed it on PC, and at the time that I was playing it, we did not get access to PlayStation code. So I've been trying to import my progress from Hitman's 1 and 2, or in Hitman 3, and I'm among many of the other people that are having problems with it. So the website has just gotten hammered, and a lot of enthusiasm for the game, which is making it, I don't think that maybe they didn't anticipate it or what the problem is, but yeah, it's just saying that I can't access that stuff. So that's frustrating. But
That is a bummer.
yeah, it's kind of annoying too, because that frustration it ultimately doesn't affect the game. It's just this kind of surrounding problem
Experience,
of the experience, you know what I mean? But I empathize with everyone who is I took the day off, I'm ready to get some Hitman on, and it's
Nope.
well, you may be ready. But, yeah.
Good luck with that. Well, I mean,
Good luck with that.
Speaking of the third game itself, just by itself as an experience, it sounds like it's good, right? I mean, if you played the first 2 Hitman games you know, the last two, I should say.
Yeah.
There were many Hitmans before that one, but the one starting in 2016, if you played those, you probably know what this is all about, right? I mean, it's not like they shook up the formula or redid anything.
Exactly. That's what I think is like, people have leveled some criticism at Hitman 3 for it, but I honestly, it's just weird because I can't think of any games that are like this, where it is, you could play it from like the very first mission, the Paris mission in Hitman 1, the 2016 one, up to the conclusion of Hitman 3, and it doesn't feel like, okay, now I'm in Hitman 2. Okay, now this is Hitman 3. It's very seamless, smooth transition from installments, which people that are accustomed to like more of a, like every sequel has to be bigger, badder, bolder, has to introduce a whole ton of new things. Like,
look at all these new weapons.
That's not what this is. Exactly. So like what's interesting though is when they have introduced new mechanics and systems, they do revisit the original levels, like the legacy missions, and incorporate those changes into those, which is great. But these are all incremental things. There's nothing in there that's like, oh yeah, now Agent 47 has a jetpack and Gatling guns for arms. You know, there's nothing like that you're just like, wow, I didn't see that coming.
I wouldn't be surprised,
It'd be
though.
a lot cooler if they did.
That would be pretty cool.
There is a banana, so there's that.
The big change is the banana.
Yeah,
the big change is the banana. Sure. Yeah.
Well, they one of the changes is there's a new camera. Did you, you know, on your, what is it, like a camera phone? Like, did you see that as like a big change? Or like, what does that do for you?
It's basically kind of a thing that you use to like, here, scan this keypad and I'll help you, like your handler will help you open a door or something. So you can take photos with it because it is a camera. But it's just kind of like a fun gimmick. It's not like, holy cow, Alex, did you see that camera?
Exactly. Wow.
There's nothing
that
like
vent that I opened up with the camera. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's more so just like adding one more touch point for the player to kind of interact. And yeah, it didn't feel too consequential to me as far as like, you know, man, this really changes Hitman, like Jeff said, but it was, you know, it's there and it's nice, I guess.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, talk about it in the review. I think the biggest change is probably the introduction of like those persistent shortcuts that you can unlock. So you can like worm your way through a level and unlock a door that will make it a lot easier to traverse. Something that, you know, it's like something like a Souls game, you know what I mean? Where you're just kind of getting a shortcut that when you get killed or you try again, you can make a beeline for a particular path or whatever. So I think that's interesting because these games are designed to be replayed, and anything you could do to kind of make that process more interesting is welcome.
That definitely feels more of a significant change in the camera to me.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, and you've been playing it too, or I think you finished it, right, Alex? So what was your impression of the game?
Yeah, I mean, game of the year, baby. Like, I know it's just January, but we're here. It's the only big game that's out. So, no, it's really good, and I think it kind of like solidifies this trilogy as definitely my favorite Hitman thing. I've been playing since Blood Money, so I've played a few before this, before they kind of revamped it. But yeah, Hitman 3 kind of just solidifies it as, I think it's like one of my favorite series now. It's just like if you like that thing, it's very good at that thing. So if you're a sandbox player, if you enjoy, you know, like Jeff said in his review, like poking at systems and seeing what happens, this is a really great package, I think, overall. And I think Hitman 3 has some of the best. I think my one of my favorite, for sure, Hitman levels ever is the China level. And it's just like, it's so cool. And even just like game levels in general, like the presentation and like the mood and the vibe of like this, you know, cyberpunk adjacent like neon light city mixed with like that Hitman sandbox. It's just, that level is so good. So play that level. If you pick up Hitman 3 and you're like, maybe I don't like this, at least play to that level. Yeah. But I really dig it. I
know one of the other new things is, you know, usually you start a mission and there's like, here's a list of things you can follow or mission paths you can take through each
the mission
level.
Stories.
Yeah, and now apparently in a couple of levels they're just secret. Like you don't know where to start, so you have to kind of explore the level before you can.
Yeah, there's one mission in particular, the Berlin mission, where you don't know who your targets are, and it's so cool. Like, I'm not getting into like the story reasons for it. You know, it's interesting, but like just the sensation of like you're in this place, it's packed with people, and you're like, I need to kill some people, and then like you don't even know how many there are.
Yeah,
so you're just kind of like, yeah, or who they are. So you're just kind of walking around and like listening to people's conversations, and then you'll see someone will like be like, all right, Condor here, I don't see him, and you're like, all right, you're going down.
He's something. Okay, so you ended up liking that because I could see some people being kind of annoyed with like, I don't even know where to start. What am I supposed to do?
Those people are big dum-dums. So sorry. no, that game, it rules. I think it's one of those, like, it's different from like previous Hitman games, but like I really dug it. Yeah.
It fits really well into the formula for sure. It makes sense within the story too. So
Well, because I was one of those players when I played the 2016 game. I played it and I just looked at the story missions and I played through those once and I was like, it's okay. Like, and I kind of wrote off the Hitman series because of it. And if you're a player like me, who was an idiot, I encourage you to like go back and maybe try replaying those levels a couple of times because that's when the game really shines and it's more exciting to play and explore the levels and just, you know, like you're saying, poke at the sandbox a little bit. That's a lot more fun. So
yeah, absolutely. And there's like the story kind of, it's not like the most incredible narrative tale I've ever experienced, but repeat playthroughs expose like relationships between characters and kind of behind the scenes what's going on ultimately in really interesting ways that it does reward people who pay attention a little bit more beyond like I threw a banana at a guy and it knocked him out. You know? That stuff's still very fun and very awesome, but like you can engage with it on a lot of different levels if you so desire, which I always appreciate.
Yeah, kind of on your terms. Like for me, I'm a player that I don't really care too much about the story, like maybe at all. Like Agent 47 is a cool character, but the gameplay is what I'm here for, and it delivers in spades. I feel like
that's awesome. So, would you say it's the perfect hit?
Perfect hit,
man.
9 out of 10.
No, you wouldn't say that. It is a 9 out of 10. We did say that. It's good. You could say that.
Yeah, I hope that 9 out of 10 doesn't mean it's good.
It's great.
I need to reevaluate the score.
It's
fantastic.
Better than good, everybody.
I blowed it.
Amazing, I would say.
Yeah.
The reviews on the site, like we said, you can also watch the video review, which Alex, you put together, and I watched that, and it was good. So nice work, both of you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Well, Alex, other than Hitman, you've been playing anything else?
I've been, depression comes around, and when I get depressed, Ben, I play one game, and that game is Valorant. And it's the most toxic experience ever, but something about, loading into a match and having just like these 14-year-old kids just from the jump start trash talking you and you just wrecking them. That is therapy right there. All right. That's free therapy because this is a free to play game. If people don't know what Valorant is, it's a PC game. It's a PC shooter.
I was waiting for you to get to it.
Yeah. I'd get to it eventually. Yeah. So if you don't know what Valorant is, it's a 5v5 tactical multiplayer game in vein of, I think for leading up to the launch, a lot of people described it as CSGO meets Overwatch. So you've got, very quick time to kills, unlike Call of Duty, where you're like unloading entire magazines into other players. One tap, one click of your mouse, if it's in the right location on their body, will kill them and eliminate them for the round. And then you've got cool hero abilities and character abilities that kind of play into that. And it's all in this package of an attack and defend mode. And you're kind of going back and forth. And they just dropped a new hero named Yoru, who is very fun. He's like a, I don't even know how to describe him. He's got a cool jacket, but his abilities are really cool because he
say no more.
I know, right? He's got a cool jacket. I mean,
sold.
He's really cool because his ability set ties into kind of bending space, and so he can teleport across the map in different ways, which is pretty new for.
So he's like Sigma in Overwatch.
Yeah, sort of, yeah. And he can kind of like, or maybe even close to Sombra, where she throws her teleporter in Overwatch, she can teleport to that location. That's what it's really close to. But yeah, man, just having a blast getting back into Valorant. It's that game that for me, when I don't know what else to play, I just go back to it, and it's kind of that comfort food game. And at this
Is
point,
that your shooter of choice at this point?
Yeah, probably. That or Rainbow Six Siege, but those are my favorites right now. And Overwatch is like always a staple. But
I know Valorant is the Riot Games one. I always get it confused with what was the Amazon Games shooter that came out right around the same time?
Crucible.
You know what? I'm really bummed about that because Crucible had a lot of potential. It was janky as all hell. Like, don't get me wrong.
It seemed cool in concept.
It had being able to the environment was so interactable. Like you like grappling onto like a giant mushroom and sniping somebody was really fun, but the mechanics were, oh Lord, they were bad.
I definitely like Valorant is definitely like you either love it or hate it, I think, because it is pretty obtuse to get into. But once you do, and then they pull you in with the skins. I spent way too much money on this game, so that's also why I keep going back, because I have to justify my
Hold on,
dumb
I thought
purchases.
you said it was free.
It is free to play, but then it's like, oh, look at this dragon skin that's animated, and it makes my gun breathe fire. Let me just drop $20 real quick.
I do that all. It's terrible. Like, even for heroes that I don't play or characters I don't play, I'm like, but that looks dope though. So if I ever want to play that character, like, it's like murder, but like make it fashion.
Yes, exactly. Murder, make it fashion. That's Valorant.
Cool. Just on the skin front, real quick, you can unlock the Predator in Fortnite real quick. That's like very cool. They just have revealed like this series of little quests, missions you can do as part of the battle pass this season. So.
Does he turn invisible too? Like when you're playing?
I haven't unlocked him yet. That's all I want to do.
I literally reinstalled Fortnite just to play Master Chief. And like when they had me with the red versus blue segue, I was like, I need more red versus blue, man. Like, I don't want to play Fortnite because I just didn't vibe with it the way a lot of people did. And I used to write guides for it, so I got burnt out really quickly. But like, I was like, I need that Chief skin. So.
Jeff, we got to play not Hitman. We can play Hitman together sometime if you want, but we should play Fortnite too.
I would love to play Fortnite with you.
You know what would be an awesome game though is like a Hitman style game where you are the Predator, and so you can just turn invisible and you're like assassinating fools and.
That'd be a cool item to bring in. Sneak in a invisibility suit. But
are you thinking like Predator Hunting Grounds? Is that what you're thinking of?
Well, I thought that game was okay. I like Hitman better as a game, so I want a better game with starring the Predator is what I was going for.
That'd be cool. They can make it work.
Yeah, for sure. So that's our Valorant talk.
Yes.
The guy with the cool jacket who incidentally can teleport, but his jacket is very cool. Let's talk about that.
That is the takeaway.
Very nice. Well, thanks for sharing, Alex. Leanna, what about you? What have you been playing?
I feel like I'm like so like the odd person out on this one. So like Alex, you can attest. Like I play a lot of Call of Duty and Destiny, but like lately I've been kind of in between those because I will tank countless hours into that game. But I started getting into this game. It's called When the Past Was Around. And it was by the same girl that did She and the Lightbearer and A Raven Monologue, which I really enjoyed just for the narrative direction she took that in. And it's an indie game. It's a point and click adventure, like puzzle type adventure. But like the art style is stunning. It almost feels, I don't know, I'm a big reader. So like I think that I have a lot more patience for point and click than maybe some types of players. But like it gave me the joy that reading a good book gives me, while giving me the same joy I get from playing a really good game. And like I'm opposite. I love a good storyline. So like if you're pitching me a game and you're pitching it as a story heavy game and the story sucks, I will never pick up that game again. Cause like I want to feel it. I want to be immersed in that world. And it's really cool because like you play as Ida, who's like a young 20-year-old, but like you don't have to be a woman to enjoy the nuance of the game. And it's heart-wrenching. Like you're basically going through memories and she meets this character called the Owl and she's lost. She doesn't know who she is. She's learning her dreams and aspirations. She falls to this guy. He like unlocks this passion in her for life, like not just for him, but like for the, love and relationships, but like for life. Like, what does she want to do? Who is she? Like, what kind of impact does she want to have in the world? And he also like kind of introduces her what it feels like to absolutely get your heart trampled on. It's not a light game, so if you're interested, go into it bracing that it's going to probably dredge up some things for you. There was one part in particular, which I'm not going to talk about because I don't want to spoil it, but like it's very like you unlock puzzle pieces and unlock memories and unlock parts of her life that really kind of show you who she is. And it's done in a way that's so realistic that like there was one particular part where I was playing and I was fine. Like I was vibing. I was like, this is good. Like, this is good. And then I just was like, oh, like I let out like this really loud noise and my husband like kept running out and I was just like gross sobbing. Like not the cute, like it was like snot everywhere. It was like not cute, but like, it like purged something in me that I didn't realize I wasn't over. And like, I felt it in my stomach and my heart, and like I had the best night's sleep I've ever had after that. Like it was just so like cathartic, but it's not an easy catharsism. Like it's gut wrenching in a way that not everybody's gonna like it, because either they just don't vibe with it, like they don't have experiences that are like into it, or it's a little bit too heavy in that. But if you're looking
Sure.
for a solid indie game with a good story and a story that matters, even though you're playing as the protagonist, in like you don't need to be a woman to experience it. Like everybody experiences loss, everybody experiences feeling lost, and yeah, it's I
And
can't I can't.
what
Sing
was
it
it called again?
It's called When the Past Was Around.
I'm gonna write that down.
And
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
was looking
usually a
it up.
puzzle fan, but
Yeah,
it's
it's like
good.
a point and click adventure. That's how they
Mhm.
describe it anyway. The art looks really cool. I like the art. Also, you're a human girl, but it looks like you're dating an owl or something. Is that right?
It's very weird. Like she layers symbolism very heavily throughout the whole game.
Mm,
So like what you see isn't necessarily what you're getting. So if you like symbolism, if you like parables, if you like anything like that, if you like, I don't know, I would see too, like if you have an affinity for philosophy or just kind of abstract thinking,
yeah.
it's beautiful. And I like that she does work in symbolism like that too, because I feel like it makes it easier to relate to it versus if it was too on the nose. I
Yeah.
think men might shy away from it because it's a little bit too on the nose. Like people want to see themselves in the characters they're playing, and they want to lose themselves in stories like that. And it's kind of hard to do if you keep everything super locked down to a certain restrictions. And yeah, it's please play.
Is it one last question for me? Is it voiced or is it all text? I know you mentioned reading.
I mean, it's text, but like
Okay.
it's immersive. Like
Yeah, yeah.
it's really you'll be able to feel it, if that makes sense. I feel
Sure.
like I'm being like really vague about it. I'm trying not to spoil anything too, because there's like a pretty good narrative arc twist
Yeah.
right around the middle part, and it's not a long game. So if I talk one part of it, I'm pretty much spoiling all of it. But yeah, it's unique. It's one of those games that it came out last year, I think. I was playing it on Steam. Uh, but it's one of those games that I wish indies had a bigger platform, because I feel like if it did, it would be a contender for Game of the Year. But it's never going to be able to compete with like the Gods of War and Cyberpunks and Last of Us, because it's just not that type of game. But it's stunning. It did not get the love it deserved.
Well, sweet.
Yeah. I mean, it looks cool. I'm going to check that out. I've been playing this week. I've mostly been playing a game for review that I'll talk about next week, but I also wanted to highlight a game that I played a couple weeks ago that I just thought was super awesome and totally unique. It's called There Is No Game, Wrong Dimension, which rolls right off the tongue. Are you guys familiar with this game? Have you heard of it? I hadn't either. I caught it in an indie game roundup online. I was like, that looks cool. I should check that out. It's basically it's another point and click adventure game, and it's an indie game, and it's super funny. So it's kind of like the opposite end. If you don't want something that's super heavy, check this game out. There Is No Game, Wrong Dimension. Apparently there was a game in 2015 he released called There's No Game that was like a dev project, one of those game jams that he released that was like 10 minutes long and blew up. And so this is kind of like exploring that concept more, where the game starts and the computer's talking to you. I'm like, hey, there's no game here. Don't try to play this. And there's a start button that the computer bolts over. And so you're pointing and clicking on the screen, trying to figure out like, how do I unlock and try to start this game? And then it totally expands from there. And there's new chapters where you start actually sort of playing a game, but you're playing these old style point and click adventures, kind of LucasArts style games. There's one game that's kind of inspired by Zelda, it seems like, but they do just like lots of super clever things with the mechanics and how you're interacting with things. Because every time you interact with something, you're basically breaking the game. Like you're breaking, let's see, the map icon off the screen, and then you're using that map icon as a tool to interact with the world and solve puzzles, for example.
You mentioned it being, it's got a comedic tone, it's breaking the fourth wall. Is it like going for like a Stanley Parable type thing, or would you liken it to that?
Yeah, a little bit. It goes some interesting places, and I wouldn't want to spoil it because I think it's fun, and it's like the story I actually enjoyed learning the story, but also the it's just super clever in everything it does. It reminded me a lot of the monster at the end of the book, you know, that old.
I was gonna say that, Reed. I'm so glad you brought that up with Grover. Yeah,
which was one of my favorite books as a kid. So I'm not surprised this totally did it for me. So if you want to see that concept just taken to the nth degree in game form, I would recommend checking that out.
I like it. That sounds really good. I've never heard of that. So I'm like,
no, I guess it came out in late December. And so I'm not surprised that it kind of blew past us, but definitely check it out. There is no game wrong to mention. I guess the name of the studio is Draw Me a Pixel. I'm not familiar with those guys, but I'm going to keep an eye on them from now on.
Awesome.
Cool. Well, that wraps up the playlist, which brings us to the next segment of the show, which is a little segment we like to call Evil Eye for the Resident Guy, which is, of course, a segment where we talk about Resident Evil news. Right around the time of this podcast drop, they just released a Resident Evil Village video vignette where they wrapped up a bunch of Resident Evil news. I know you were paying attention very closely to this, Leanna. You want to run down like what the big news is?
Oh my God. Okay. So Capcom shared a new trailer, which we were expecting. They shared a really in-depth look at gameplay, which is awesome. You know, you have like the merchants in all of the games. He's now the Duke, and he like basically the live action Alice in Wonderland movie, how they got the big guy, like the Tweedledee and Tweedledum. He basically looks like that, but like even bigger and like just larger than life. And he just pops out of like closets and things, which is weird. And I'm kind of digging it. But like, yeah, they showed off really cool stuff. I like the crafting. They showed off a lot of like how they go in detail with crafting this time with like first aid and weapons and ammo and stuff like that, which I really like that kind of aspect. That's one of the things I like the most about Last of Us is in the new one is the crafting system.
Yeah. Seems like they were very inspired with Resident Evil Village from Resident Evil 4, just because not only is there crafting, but like the menu system, you know, it's a very similar like Tetris style where you're like moving your objects around and trying to find space for them. And they also have a shopkeeper in this one, which it was fun to see like, oh, a shopkeeper's returning. It's not the same guy. It's not like the what are you buying guy. I like a lot.
With the trench coat.
yeah. It would have been fun if he came back. But it is fun that they'll have like a quirky new character who buys and sells stuff.
I don't know. I like the fact that like the villains, from what we see, I mean, keep in mind, this is a very small like gameplay. Like it wasn't like a 2-hour demo or anything, but like but the demo is also live on Friday.
Yeah, so that's another bit of news is the demo for the PlayStation version is live now.
PlayStation 5 version, which is an exclusive version of the demo. The demo that's going to unlock for all consoles later is going to be different. But yeah, but you don't play as Ethan. You don't play as the protagonist. You play as the maiden. And there's no combat in the demo either. It's literally your only objective is to try to escape the castle, which I think is kind of cool. But like, I just love how from what we've seen, everything looks because I love that you made the liken to Resident Evil 4 because that's literally my favorite in the franchise. Like I can't even think about how many times I've played through that. I played it on a Wii. I played it on every console and platform it came out on. And it does liken to that a lot. Like I feel like Resident Evil 4 had a richness to its narrative that isn't necessarily always apparent in the franchise. And I feel like if this is how it looks in the gameplay, that Village could potentially be like the ultimate love letter to Resident Evil fans. And it's the right amount of creepy and scary, but like not reliant on just cheap jump scares. And I want to know more about the swarming bugs with like all the foes. Cause like you can literally get killed just by bugs. Like they crawl under your skin, they drink your blood, and that's how they can attack you from far away because of that. And
I think real bugs do that too. I don't trust real bugs. Honestly.
I don't trust them either. Those dirty
scarabs,
dirty jerks.
Yeah, I mean, the combat,
we
haven't gotten our hands on it yet, but I really want to play it and see if it feels good. But I remember I like how Seven felt. If they could tighten up the gunplay just a little bit, I'd love that. But one thing they showed off in the trailer too is like you can block now, which is interesting. And I wonder how much they'll have to rely on blocking. I'll probably have to get used to that when somebody comes and attacks. And I guess you can block now and sort of
does that take away like
some of the attack?
Does that take away some of like the scariness of the game if you can just like block attacks now?
to me, I think it's a testament of how scary it's going to be. Like I felt the
really?
need that you might need this. Cause I mean, again, I don't know. I haven't like seen like a full copy or anything, but from what it looks like, I mean, these aren't going to be because there's a bunch of different enemies. You have like the weird, like zombie things naturally, but like you also have like this huge, like larger than just that microcosm of supernatural danger. And I get the feeling that there's going to be probably a weird twist with Ethan's narrative. I feel like they're hinting at like a much bigger twist that might tie in with Redfield a little bit. I don't know. I'm really interested to see, and I'm interested to see why Redfield looks so different. Like there has to be a bigger reason other than
he looks way different than he did in 7, right? But he looks closer to the way he looked in 6, I think. Although it feels like he looks different in every game, honestly.
Capcom doesn't know what he looks like.
They just can't figure it out.
Sure, because every title he looks totally different.
They're just going for the up-res Peter Parker thing.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah. Well, it's funny because like Leon kind of has a certain look. I mean, he has that hairdo, which maybe that helps. But Chris is just like, I don't know, generic guy originally. So it's like, how do you make somebody stand out if they're just a generic template?
Yeah.
That's a fair point. Yeah. What I really liked though, in the announcement, because I really liked the gameplay. Like I really did enjoy learning more about like the danger and the more subtle parts of the danger and the exploration. But one thing I'm really excited for, so it's like the 25th anniversary in March of the franchise as a whole. So they have a new PvP adventure that is cool. Kind of like Project Resistance, except this time it's like kind of like almost a mini battle royale almost. It's all like last man from what it looks like it's all last man standing, but you get to play as like iconic characters and you can
Did they have a name as for that? It's
a reverse. So it's RE and then the colon and then verse.
I don't play the single player game. I haven't played the single player game since 5. That was the last one I beat, but I like the multiplayer
7 was good.
Experiments.
So they have a bundle
it's too scary. There's no way.
You should play
the
2.
Multiplayer is not scary. I did enjoy 2 from what I played. I need to go back to it.
Yeah,
I did enjoy the opening of that. I got to where the dude was crawling on the ceiling, and then I was like, nope. I'm out.
Play 7. It's really good. Like it's different. It takes it back to. I feel like it lost its way a little bit with 6 and 5.
Yeah, 5 is like the one I was like, oh, it's co-op. I can do this.
Yeah,
I've got a friend.
I feel like they were trying to do a little bit too much to set it apart, and it really kind of, as on its own, it was fine, but it didn't feel like Resident Evil at times.
Sure.
But 7 was really good, and 7 really does set up the events of 8, and they have the bundle. They're selling a bundle with 7 and 8 as well, or I guess I should stop calling it 8 Village. And like, so like if you have it, I'll buy it for you. And I said frick, I didn't say I will buy it for you if you play it, because it's scary, but it's really good. But yeah, like Reverse, you can play like the stereotypical characters of like Jill Valentine and Claire and Leon, but you could also play as like Mr. X and like have the X is gonna give it to you song playing the whole time while I'm just wrecking house, because like I love killing people in games. I just want to like go in and go ham and live my inner Mr. X fantasy.
Yeah.
As you should.
Wait, why was Resident Evil 6 afraid of Resident Evil 7?
Because 7, 8, 9.
Yeah, Resident Evil 7, Resident Evil 8, Resident Evil 9. No, it doesn't work that way, does it? Not really. Cork, what were you gonna say? Are you Resident Evil?
I was gonna say, like, I feel like the multiplayer games that in the Resident Evil, like that Capcom has brought, they've all been like adequate and fine in a way that just by default a multiplayer game is adequate and fine. But I'm just confounded by Capcom's like, this franchise needs to have a big multiplayer component. They just keep crashing against that reef, and I just don't understand why they continue to put so much energy and resources behind that when I like to be one where it's just like, this is an essential experience. You need to play this. It's like, at best, it's like, hey, you know that one guy, you can be him. It's like,
they're not even like I thought Resistance was like you said, adequate. Like it was fun, but they didn't. I feel like they needed to sell that stuff separately. It was tied into the RE3, and I was like, well, I don't want to play RE3. I'm not going to drop $60 or whatever it was for a multiplayer game. That should be $15 or even free to play on Steam.
Yeah, and I don't feel like the multiplayer. It feels like a mentality that's like 10 years old or 15 years old.
That's exactly right, because it feels like it's like a multiplayer mode tacked onto a single player experience that doesn't get that support that it really needs to thrive.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not positioned as anything other than like, here's this extra thing. And it's like, I don't have time for extra things.
It's like that's even like more so for Reverse, because like it's literally they said in the presentation like this is just a mode, which is free if you have.
This is just a mode, Village. Man. That's exciting.
It's just a mode to give fans a chance to celebrate. They said they have a lot more announcements in the coming months to celebrate. They're going to have announcements throughout the entire year to celebrate the franchise for the 25 years.
Dynamic themes for your PlayStation 4.
Yeah, free dynamic themes and things like that. But I feel like, I don't know. I feel like I feel like it's being used as a marketing tool. Get Village, get this free if you want to play with friends. I liked Project Resistance a lot, but again, I really like PvP. But yeah, I agree that it was nothing special. It's nothing that Left 4 Dead didn't do. It's nothing that Deceit didn't do. It's nothing that Dead by Daylight's not doing currently. You already have those. It's a bit too reliant on the love that the franchise names gets.
Yeah.
But if you've got it, it's enjoyable. I wouldn't I wouldn't buy it. I wouldn't pay for it. I knew I had, Resident Evil 3, so
exactly.
Fine. Yeah. Hey, the problem too is that you can save some money by not developing these modes. Nobody needs them. It's fine. We're fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like it. And then we got our first look at the animated. So Resident Evil has 2 projects going in the works outside of gaming. They have the live action film. And then they have the animated CGI film that is set a couple years after Resident Evil 4, and a new outbreak emerges, and it's Leon again, and we got a very small sneak peek at what that looks like, with a few like choice cutscenes of Leon and Claire and them, but not a full on. I would say it's a teaser. But I'm a sucker for Resident Evil, man. Pump it all in my veins. I'll watch it.
When's the Resident Evil Netflix show coming?
That's one of them. They're both.
Oh, are they really?
Yeah,
but there's another one. Yeah.
They didn't give a date. They just said it's coming. It's releasing globally.
Okay.
On Netflix, which is pretty standard for anything that releases on Netflix, right? I didn't realize there was like a lot of global restrictions, but they made it seem like that was a big deal.
That's crazy. Well, yeah, that's everything Resident Evil. I don't think I've been excited for a Resident Evil movie in decades, honestly. So more power to you, Leon. I love Resident Evil in game form, but as soon as you move out of the game space, I think I drop off in my interest.
I'm actually not excited about the live. I'm excited about the CGI. I feel like CGI is the way to go with those kind of things, because I feel like the live action is too distanced. Although we've kind of had it's on GameInformer.com, plug. But we have a couple of like behind the scenes looks at the live action, and it actually looks dope. Like if it looks like the images, because the movies with Mila Jovovich just started out really strong, and holy crap, what did they become? Like it was like unrecognizable. It was ridiculous. It was just a cash grab at that point. But if they can, like, they did the shots of like the Raccoon Police Station department, and it is an exact replica from the games. Like it's not a loose interpretation. So if they can deliver an experience that the photos portrayed, I would be interested. But I'm way more excited about the CGI, because I feel like with things like that, that's the way to go.
Cool. Well, we should probably move on. But last thing we should say that they also announced a date for the Resident Evil Village, the game. It's out on May 7th, which is pretty soon. I think I kind of maybe expected it almost in March. Like I almost expected it earlier, but May's not that far away either. So May 7th, you can play the game, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series XX, PC, and then they also announced previous gen as well. So PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. So it's coming to everything except Switch.
They should have released it on the anniversary. I felt like that would have been really cool, because 25 years, that's impressive.
Yeah. I can't believe we've been playing these games for that long. Almost since day one for me. It's been a fun series. So I can't believe I'm 25 years old
Beautiful.
Great. Well, you guys want to take a break? We'll come back and do some emails.
Yeah.
Do it.
Do it.
Let's do it. And welcome back, everybody. The gang's still here. We're going to do some community emails. These are emails that you guys send in. podcast@gameinformer.com. You can ask us questions. You can send us games to play. You can send in suggestions of games that you think should go on our required reading list, which we might talk about later in this episode. We'll see. But yeah, podcast@gameinformer.com. We will read them all. Such as this first email. Jason from Ukraine writes in. He says, I've been making a living writing about video games. And one time I was at a bar talking to a woman and she laughed when I said I write about video games, which that's sad. That's kind of rude too. She didn't seem to think that there was anything of substance in the medium worth writing about. And the real kicker is that when I asked her what she did for work, she said she didn't even have a job.
What?
Get that. So now yeah, exactly. Now I'd like to say that I brushed it off like dust on my shoulder, but honestly, it offended me a little bit. Since I do work very hard to pay for my own higher education, has anybody done something similar to you about your jobs? What do you guys think? Have you ever had a similar experience?
All the time.
All the time. You and your husband get into it?
My husband's family is very conservative and very traditional.
Okay.
Bless them. Even when I was working at CBS, like that wasn't like I like the best is I even took that job so I could be like, look, it's a real company, like because I didn't think I was like really working at real places, like I was just justifying blogging or something. And even when I wasn't working writing side and I was working on the marketing side, or when I freaking got my first developer credit, it still wasn't enough to be beyond a hobby. I get that a lot. I get that a lot from them not understanding like when I have to work, or assuming because it's just games that I can just stop whenever they need me to. And then just meeting new people sometimes if they're not like, I don't have a lot of gamers around me in my community. It's pretty isolated unless you get to where, which is kind of ironic considering like NetherRealm is 15 minutes away from me.
Yeah.
But I've had that where I would meet like new people and I would say I'm in gaming and I would either get the, oh, so you just play video games all day. I wish. Or oh, that's not a real job. Or the fun one if you're a woman is oh, you're the token female. Or you're not pretty enough to do that. Or do you know Alana? Can I get an autograph? it's always like some form of it's not real, or you're only there. The amount of times I've been told I was just a quota hire is ridiculous. So all the time. Way to make it negative, Leanna. Moving on, Jeff.
No, I mean, I can't believe those stories. I don't think I have like anything that matches that. That's insane. The only story, and this isn't even like people making fun of my job, is like there was one time I was living in Uptown in Minneapolis with my brother, and he was like talking to our neighbors, and he told them what I did, and my neighbors were like, "Wait, why are you guys living here? Doesn't he make a ton of money?" Like, they thought for some reason working in a magazine means you make a ton of money, but that's my story.
Yeah, my dad still doesn't fully. Well, it's just fully. I don't even think he has like a superficial understanding of what I do, which I don't talk about it with him a lot. But he uses the word testing. He thinks I test video games and write about them. Yeah, which I don't know what he. Okay, Dad.
Yeah, my parents have done that too, and sometimes I'll say I read a cover story about it, and they'll say like, "Oh, that review you wrote." And I'm like, "Well, it wasn't really a review. It was like a cover story. I visited the studio," and sometimes it'll be like. With people I know or family members, like they think that the game must have been out and that's what I was writing about. Yeah. I understand that we went to the studio and got a behind the scenes look and saw it before everybody else.
Mm-hmm. I don't think that there's ever been like anyone has been insulting about the job or anything, but I think a lot of it just comes from a place of like people not understanding it because it is kind of a rare profession in a lot of ways. So it would be like if someone was saying like, I'm a nuclear engineer, they probably hear all the dumb questions a million times that I would ask based on that. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, at least my experience has been, it's never been like someone's being mean about it or insulting. It's just been like, oh, video games. You play video games. You say you work in so you play video games for a living. I think they're just trying to make the connections, and you have to be like you said, I wish, but yeah.
I would. I like how you said about the engineer thing, because the first thing anybody asked when I tell them I was in the military, because I was an engineer, I did Warcrafts, and
Warcraft.
It's the world of Warcraft, and like the first question I always get is, "Have you killed somebody?" I'm like, that's not all.
I'm an engineer, bro.
Yeah, I don't want this to come across too like we're complaining about our jobs, because like our jobs are pretty sweet. I'll say that, and we're all pretty lucky to have them. So I think
we have a really good.
Don't make fun of people and what they do. Like that's just rude.
And
unless they're a comedian,
the Game Informer community too, because like you guys worked at a lot of websites and a lot of properties, and the Game Informer community is by far the best community I have ever witnessed. Like, you guys rock.
For sure. Okay. Next email, Josh from Salt Lake City writes in. He says, this podcast has definitely gotten me through some crazy times at work this past year, as the pandemic has made things pretty stressful. So glad to hear that, Josh. Thanks for listening. Anyway, I've been a huge fan of the Donkey Kong franchise for a long time. Tropical Freeze might actually be my favorite game of all time. With the older games recently making their way onto the Switch Online service, it's been a blast to make my way through all of those as well. I've been wondering where the Donkey Kong franchise could go next, as the Switch hasn't seen an entry yet, besides the Tropical Freeze port. When I realized that even a 2D Mario hasn't been seen on the system yet, that got me thinking how cool it might be to see Mario/Donkey Kong crossover in a platformer game. The levels could be a hybrid of both Mario and Donkey Kong levels, where you swap between the characters to tackle each platform challenge. It's a cool idea. Yeah. Josh, I think that's cool. His question is, have any of you ever thought of a pair of franchises in the same vein that you think would go well together into some kind of crossover game?
All the time. But I talk way too much, so I'll go last.
Mario and Sonic. I think that'd be really cool.
At the Olympics,
maybe if
or
they
just
were
in
like
general?
Competing? Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. Honestly, I like the idea of Donkey Kong and Mario. I think it'd be cool to see. I'm not like I haven't played a lot every Donkey Kong game. I love Tropical Freeze. That soundtrack is awesome, and I played the ones back in the day on Game Boy and N64. Have we seen Donkey Kong since Donkey Kong 64 go 3D? I'm trying to think. It's always been 2D, right? Since then.
Since the 64, I don't think so. Yeah,
it'd be cool to see like a Mario in the style of like Mario Odyssey with like a crossover Donkey Kong, because those levels are my favorite type of 3D Mario is like the Odyssey, the 64, more open-ish environments rather than, the strictly linear stuff. And I think like if you added Donkey Kong into that mix, that could be pretty cool. I don't know.
I want to see another Mario Rabbids Kingdom battle. Like that matchup already happened, which is just insane that that's a real product. Like Mario XCOM. Game. But yeah, I would love to see another thing like that. That'd be great.
Yeah.
I don't know, Jeff, you have any like crazy mashups that could be fun?
I'm perfectly satisfied with the level of creativity in the game industry. I think they're really doing it. So.
I mean, don't you think they could take, Fortnite, which is one of your favorite franchises, and do something cool? Like maybe combine it with
put the Predator in it, for instance?
Yeah, like they should do something like that, I think. Maybe they should think outside the box for once.
Yeah.
Put Donkey Kong in Fortnite.
Yeah.
How about
they have vehicles in Fortnite, but maybe like a Twisted Metal type car combat, like straight up. And then just remove all the Fortnite stuff and just give me another Twisted Metal game.
Honestly, car combat racing is cool, and I like it, and I like Mario Kart, but it'd be fun to see something. It doesn't feel like enough other studios do that, because it'd be fun to see like real cars smashing it up. And there was an old game called Carmageddon, which was super bloody, but I always liked that game. I like the idea of taking out your opponent in front of you, and then they're just out of the match entirely.
Yeah. Oh, there's that game. I can't remember. It was like during the PS5 showcase that seemed like a hero shooter / Twisted Metal style. And it's going to be one of the PlayStation Plus games. Remember that? And then it was delayed because they needed, what was the name of that one? It was like something Champions. It seems like it's just been memory hold. It was like one of the games they showed. It was like you could get out of the car also.
Oh,
Yeah, it's not ringing a bell.
that you've like sparked something. I vaguely remember this now.
It looked kind of like an Overwatch cartoony art style, but car combat, and it's like in these big arena. It was something super generic. People are probably shouting at their podcasting devices right now, but it was something like arena champions or like car champion. It was something completely like a Valorant, where it's just like, is this even a real game? It's not so generic.
Yeah, there was something. Also, how dare you speak of Valorant that way, Jeff? But also,
I'm gonna find this. I'm so mad now.
Yeah, you look for that. This game is either out like recently or it's coming out soon. There was a really cool crossover, or at least it was an interesting idea, I think, of like Tony Hawk and wave racing, where you were like these animals driving around these wave racers and like grinding in the ocean and stuff. That looked pretty cool. It was like an interesting, a new thing. But
I would like to apologize. I found it. It's coming out in February. It doesn't have champions. And you tell me if this is generic. Maybe I don't want to. Maybe I poisoned the well a little bit. Destruction All Stars.
Oh, I was going to say that.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah.
Destruction. That's not out. That feels like a game that came out 20 years ago. Yes,
No.
Just no.
No.
Have you guys ever seen the sci-fi movie with Jennifer Lopez that came out a long ass time ago called The Cell?
Yes, that's fantastic.
That's where they split the horse up and like they divide the horse.
Yeah.
So this is a concept I have obsessed about more than I'm willing to admit, but I would love a game like The Cell, like set up in The Cell, how she goes through the serial killer's like mind and it's like rifles through his distorted memories. I would love where you create your character however you want. So it can look exactly like you. It can look how you wish you looked. But basically the root of it is you create your character and you go through these weird sequences. But it will never happen because of the licensing issues. And also it probably is a lot dumber than I think it's going to be. But like you as a player are like playing video games in the game. So like gameception. And something happens kind of like in the new Jumanji movie, how they're playing the game and then they're suddenly in Jumanji. They're suddenly in this, but they go through these weird memory sequences where during that time, there's two different ways I would like to see it happen. Either or. Is one, they go through the instances and they become the hero in some of our favorite games like Mass Effect or Halo or Fortnite or like whatever. Or you as the player meet these characters. Like you get to like, you drop in on the action randomly. Like it's very like high sequence like The Cell where like she's like suddenly thrust in this memory and she has no idea what's going on. And she has to like quickly adapt to kind of figure out where she's at and what this means. I want it like that. And I want it like, you're like, dropped in right before like the suicide mission in Mass Effect 2, or you're dropped in right behind before the final fight in Gears 5, or and Mario right before and you're suddenly your character's like super pixelated and you're like, what do we do? And then you're like, you see across the bridge and you have this like pixelated axe and like you kind of look at Mario like, the hell? Like what do you do? And I want it to just be this like total mishmash of icons of gaming past, to be like the ultimate love letter to gamers of like, this is what games mean to us and this is now you get to be a part of it. Like you are a part of these iconic moments that happened throughout the last 20-25 years of games. I think that would be really cool. I don't know if that counts as a crossover, but I've obsessed.
Hey, if they can make Ready Player One work, why not this?
Yeah.
Go for it. Call Steven.
Steven, hit me up, boo.
Alex, are you calling him? I don't see your hand moving.
Steven.
All right. He's on it, everyone.
Yep.
Okay. Next email. Corey from Big Lake, Minnesota says, hey, GI staff. Here's the question of the year. No need to take any more emails because this is it, everybody. You guys ready?
Yes.
Is a hot dog oh, you know what, Corey? No. I'm not doing this. I'm sorry. All right. Moving on. Keith from Toronto writes in. He says, not a lot of my in real life friends have consoles, but they do have phones. So we play almost every day Call of Duty Mobile Battle Royale. Have any of you guys checked out that game?
Call of Duty Mobile? Yeah. It's good. It's actually really fun.
I've heard a lot of good things about it, honestly. I haven't played it. Keith says he loves it. He likes it a lot. He plays it with his buddies. So his question is, do you guys feel that mobile gaming, not on console, so not really Switch even, doesn't get enough reported on enough in the mass media? And why do you think that is? Should companies focus more on it due to the huge install base and so potential player base? Should people cover mobile games more?
So when mobile games first started being a thing, they were very simplistic. Like you had like the Snake game, which were really fun. We didn't see like full on franchise fleshing out experiences until much, much, much later. And a lot of the earlier on mobile games were unabashedly cash grabs. Like you couldn't progress without paying additional
Dragon
money.
Veil comes to mind.
Yeah, and like you literally could not it masquerades as this very affordable mode of play, but you cannot progress. Like there are some games that you physically can't progress, like pay for tokens or whatever.
Yeah.
And because of that, it's gotten a lot of that medium of gameplay has gotten a lot of backlash from gamers, from investors, from developers, because it kind of is seen as this tarnishing of what gaming is and a really dumbed down version. And because of that, a lot of people aren't searching mobile games. Therefore, websites don't have any incentive to cover them because nobody's going to read them. And when you have limited resources of writers only being able to write X amount of articles a day, you obviously don't want to write something if nobody's going to read it. What's the point? Like not even looking at monetization or traffic or anything like that. Literally just a lot of writing that we do beyond just news is opinion pieces and things like that where we want to engage with our community. We want to have a conversation. Well, what's the point of opening up a conversation if nobody's going to reciprocate? You know what I mean? If you're writing a piece and you know that nobody's going to read it, you don't write it. But unfortunately, that sucks because there's so many amazing mobile experiences out there that I think they get overlooked because the general bias towards mobile platforms is it's not real gaming. And that's not true. There's a lot of games out there that require skill. Like the Final Fantasy mobile experience is actually really fun. There's the Sims mobile experience. Like there's a lot of experiences out there that are beyond expectation, but because there's this bias of you're not a real gamer. And we see this all the time in comment sections. The few times we do cover mobile games, people are like, well, you're not a gamer if you play mobile games. And that stems from a much longer, more intricate history of when mobile games first started breaking out into the market as a viable way of entertainment. And I think we have a long way to go before we can break that. But I think companies are invested in that. They're looking at it. We saw it with Fallout Shelter. That ended up coming consoles later because it was such a big hit. People just need to be open-minded and companies that are developing this and investors need to back off a little bit. When you're looking at developing these kind of games, you have to be careful with that gotcha aspect because you are going to remove any desire to play those types of games. And you're going to also further perpetuate that there is no interest in these types of games because people are going to drop out very quickly and you're going to see that player base drop.
Yeah. I'd argue that like a lot of the mainstream games like got a lot of coverage, like Candy Crush and Clash of Clans, all the big ones that are, they're all, a lot of them are cash grabs still. I would love to see more coverage of, smaller games like some of the ones that I love are Card Thief and Miracle Merchant, like more of a indie dev approach to mobile as a platform.
Right. I know when Apple Arcade came out last, was that in 2019 even?
That was 2019. Oh, yeah. There's so many amazing titles there.
Yeah, but I remember when that came out, there was kind of a push to do a lot of coverage on those games, and a lot of those games were really good.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel like, I don't know how that did for Apple. Maybe it didn't do as well as they wanted because it doesn't feel like they've been pushing quite as hard anymore.
Yeah, and a lot of those games launched on PC simultaneously, I felt like. And so it kind of like there weren't a ton of like exclusive to to Apple Arcade.
But it's stuff like Grindstone is great, and now it's on Switch, and so it's worth playing if you haven't played it before.
Grindstone is awesome. Yeah.
So I wanted to see more stuff like Grindstone, I think, and yeah, if they put out games like that, I would totally cover it and play those games more. But as is, like there's such a sea out there of games that want to take my money and aren't really that compelling to me.
They're half-assed.
Yeah.
Like the Mass Effect mobile game sucks. Like you should be ashamed. That was bad. That was bad on 50 different levels. That was 50 shades of bad.
So it's just really hard to cover from our perspective too, because there's so much crap out there and it's not worth it to some degree. But the few games that are good that stand out, like I think they get the coverage they deserve. So I don't know. It's a hard industry to crack into there.
High barrier of entry. Yeah, I agree. With very little payoff.
Okay, that ends the traditional email segment, but we also have a list called Required Reading. It's we're making a list. 2021 is the year we stand out by making a list. Everybody, we got this idea. We're going to put together a list of games.
Oh, finally!
You heard it here first. Yeah, finally a list. these are going to be games that we think.
Did you say we're informing them of games?
That's exactly what we're doing, Leanna. Thank you for bringing that up. We are going to put together a list of games that you should feel required to play if you are a fan of the medium. So we need your help, though. So you've been sending out games for us to vet. We're going to put together that wider list. We're going to vet them. And then at the end of the year, I think we'll come up with our top 10. So this is the year to send in. Like, if you want us to put a game on this list, send us an email about it. Right now we have Chrono Trigger, Last of Us, Civ 5, and Diablo 2 on the list for candidates. These are our candidates, right? So we have a couple people who wrote in. Let's see if they deserve to go on our candidates list. You guys ready for this?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Steve from Buffalo, New York writes in. He says a slam dunk for required reading. You guys ready? See if this is a slam dunk. Doom, the 1993 version.
Yeah.
This was the reason to buy a PC. I had a shareware version. This is Steve still talking, by the way. He had a shareware version he played for countless hours. Even today, it's still being ported to weird things like calculators and anything with a screen.
Yeah.
See, he also writes another suggestion if we want to take a second suggestion from him, but I think we should take a look at Doom first. What do you guys think? What do you guys think about Doom?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's Doom. Enough said.
Yeah.
You don't even need to argue it. It's Doom.
Mm-hmm.
It deserves it.
Yeah, I remember when I was really getting into following games closely because I was a fan and I wanted to follow the industry. I remember the term Doom clone got thrown around all over the place. And I know Doom isn't the first person shooter, but it was such an influential one that it basically owned that genre enough that everybody is like, hey, this is a game that's trying to do what Doom did. So I think just for that alone, just its influence on the industry, it's probably worth playing. Yeah. But then also, I mean, I played it, I think 5 years ago, and I think it still holds up decently. It's not a terrible game to go back to.
Agreed.
It's still kind of fun.
Not a terrible game to go back to.
That's the mark of true quality.
No, it's great, man. Like, yeah. I was still a kiddo when it launched, but my dad played a lot of Doom, and I remember growing up watching him play that, and yeah, man, iconic.
Wait, how old are you, Alex?
I'm 29.
Oh,
I was 2 when it came out. 93, right?
93.
90.
So I was a little too young to be playing, but I remember watching him play that. Maybe a little Altered Beast action on the Sega Master System.
I think I was
Good
6
times.
when that came out.
I will say, like with Doom, like Tim Rogers Action Button channel on YouTube, and also just a prolific, amazing writer and content creator. Not everyone's cup of tea. I totally get it, but like I'm really into him. He's got a 3-hour long review of Doom, the original Doom. That's like fascinating, and like if you want to like a really interesting, funny, weird deep dive on Doom and just its cultural significance, I would highly recommend that. I know we're not getting wrecked, but
what was his name again?
Tim Rogers.
Tim Rogers.
He was previously over at Kotaku.
Oh, sure. I know that name. Okay.
Yeah, I love those reviews too.
Yeah.
They're pretty cool.
Okay. Normally we only take one request, but I'm curious what you guys think of this. Steve also said he wanted to throw Mega Man 2 from the NES on the list. It's an absolute classic that took what worked from the first game and evolved it so much more that it had one of the best gaming soundtracks of that generation. There are so many great covers to those songs. He kind of goes off on the songs, which, hey, admittedly, are great. But Mega Man 2.
I feel like one per customer, baby. But that could just be me.
You're going to say no? Just for that rule alone?
I don't know. It gets us off the hook, doesn't it?
That's true.
Yeah, I've played a lot of Mega Man. I've never been a huge fan. I don't know. It just never clicked with me that much. Now, if we're talking Mega Man Battle Network, let's go, baby. Game Boy Advance.
Let's go.
But yeah, I'm with Jeff. I think, yeah.
Okay.
It's a no from me.
I love Mega Man 2, but I don't know that it's...
I do agree that's the best soundtrack, though.
Sorry, Steve.
Soundtrack's phenomenal.
I mean, Mega Man 2 is probably the best entry in that franchise.
Yeah.
Whether or not that means it belongs on the list, I don't know.
Steve, get your friend to write in. And
yeah, exactly. Get your friend to write in.
Yeah.
Other Steve.
Steve, not Steve.
Steve 2 from Buffalo, New York. Okay. Well, we also do have an email, one last email from Joe from Pennsylvania. He says they write in, Thanks for all that you guys do. Your content is second to none. Thanks, Joe. He would like to nominate The Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past for the required reading list. It's one of the best Zelda games, an SNES classic, and a foundational open world role-playing game. It clearly influenced games for years thereafter. Its music and art style in particular are phenomenal. Phenomenal.
Like, what was
Good grief.
that word?
Yeah, for me, it's no question.
Yeah,
It's on the list.
Yeah,
I
that's a
think
tough one too, though,
so.
because then are we gonna then say we can't have Ocarina of Time when someone inevitably recommends that because we don't want to have multiple Zeldas?
Yeah, I think when we get to that point, those are markedly different experiences. You know, we talk about one 2D classic and another that kind of helped revolutionize, gaming with the use of 3D. I feel like when we get to that point, we can use that as an argument.
Let me know. I won't be on that episode because I can handle it.
You would argue
And then you got
heavily
Link's
against-
Awakening, the best one, which whatever. But here we are.
Oh, you like
it's
Link's
great.
Awakening better, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
If you were putting together a list, would you put the original on there or would you put the remake on Switch?
of Link's Awakening,
Yeah.
oh, the remake. I love the remake. It's so good.
It's basically the same game, but it looks so much better, right?
It was.
Oh yeah,
so
it's virtually identical, but it just looks really.
I wish they had done a thing where, like in the Master Chief Collection, where you can flip-flop
Yeah,
between the two
that'd be cool.
versions. Like, it would have been fun if they had that.
The only problem with that is that the original one, you'd kind of like snap to the edge of the screen and then it would like pan over, whereas the Switch version is just a continuous scroll, which would make your
Complicate things.
brain break if it was like suddenly like the camera would just freak out. I think if you wanted to switch between the two, but
That's not my problem.
I love it.
That's
That's my
tech-
favorite
techie
answer
part.
for everything, honestly. So you're
They
right.
should've
Not
done
my
it.
problem. They
Last
should have
they
done it.
have.
Yep.
I feel like
yeah,
I'm the only person that plays the Master Chief Collection and like toggles it automatically to the original. I just
No, I do that a lot when I play Master Chief Collection. It's a great look back.
right? Like it was just so like I genuinely just love the Halo experience of playing it in the original glory on PC now is like awesome.
But hey, did we shortchange Link to the Past? I mean, I know we all kind of just said like, yeah, it goes on the list.
I think so.
Do we
I think
need
we're
to talk
seeing-
about why it's awesome? Like, it's definitely like foundational in a lot of ways.
Yeah. It's
I mean-
it's interesting because I replayed it within the last year and it is a very good game and very like important from a historical perspective. It is interesting revisiting and now like I found a lot of like some pain points that I just kind of glossed over in my memory. Just like some elements of it are just like I'm not in love with this, so, whatever. But yeah, why not put it on the list?
But if you had never
required.
played that game for some reason, wouldn't you feel kind of like I should probably play Link? to
Yeah,
the
I
Past?
think it's one of those like the whole point of this is that it's an exercise in like you should, if you want to call yourself a real gamer, you should play these or else. It's a
core
game that
gamer.
comes up in conversation enough to
Rubs.
where just like for gaming literacy, you should have that as a point of reference, know?
Yeah.
In much the same way like someone should write in and say Super Metroid, right? Because that's another like game design touchstone.
I don't want to tell anybody what to do, but yeah, you definitely should. And while Super Metroid has a bunch of, the Metroidvanias out there, like everybody's copying that formula now, I don't feel like there's a ton of people copying the Zelda formula.
Yeah.
It feels like more people could do that, top-down dungeon design. Definitely indie games. Am
Oh,
I
yeah,
missing
for
it?
sure.
Am I missing there's a huge wealth of indie games out there that are copying the Zelda formula?
Although that it's a huge wealth, but I have seen some.
There's like Swords of Ditto came out recently, like within the past couple of years, that pretty much copied that. I think they added some roguelike features, but then stripped them away. I don't know.
Am I misremembering? Because Hyper Light Drifter, could you kind of argue that if you
Yeah.
squint, you could make the case?
It's a
Yeah.
top-down action game. Yeah, there weren't like puzzles and dungeons in that game, I don't think. Were there?
Yeah.
Am I
Squint one
misremembering
eye
it?
and close the other. And it
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to like blink, alternate blinking. Anyway, yeah, Legend of Zelda, definitely one of my favorite games too. Awesome game, great puzzle design, great open world concept. Like it blew my mind because then I thought open world games began with GTA 3. And I got kind of like, oh yeah, there's this whole wealth of older games that like do that concept, and Zelda is one of the games that first started the idea of like you can kind of go anywhere and explore the world.
I remember as a kid, the very first Zelda game I didn't like because it was very overwhelming. and I didn't appreciate it till I was a little bit older. And then when I was a little bit older, I was like, this is the best thing ever. But like the first time I was just like, I don't know what to do. I mean, I was young, but I was like, I don't know what to do. This is very overwhelming and I'm too young to have existential crisis like this.
Yeah. I was a dumb kid.
Yeah, you didn't think, oh, I should really try to burn every bush here for some scares. Ridiculous.
Well, there you go. Yeah, if you haven't played it, it's not official yet, but it is on our nominee list. I definitely recommend Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past.
Bold statement. You're going to get a lot of heat for that.
I'm going to stand by it. I don't care what you say. Yeah. Well, that wraps up our email section. I know it's sad to be done, but we'll do another one next week, I promise. That brings us to the last segment of the show, a segment we like to call Get Rekt, where we recommend, things that you should check out. If you want to recommend things that we should check out, please send us an email, podcast@GameInformer.com. The thing I'm going to recommend, Jay Guisao wrote an article. He says, what I'd like to see in a new open world Star Wars game. And he had a lot of good points. I recommend reading his article. One of the points was like, hey, let's focus on anybody other than Skywalker at this point. Let's broaden the field. Let's not even include anybody in the Skywalker family. I think we can move outside of that generation a little bit too, and the Star Wars game you make would be a little more interesting. We've seen so much stuff set between trilogies, whatever trilogy you pick. Like, let's kind of move away from that.
Agreed. It's tired. But so much more.
For sure. Yeah, it's such a cool, interesting universe, and we're so focused in on this 20, 30-year period. Mm-hmm. But yeah, go check that out. What I'd like to see in the new open world Star Wars game on GameInformer.com. All right, who wants to go next? Alex?
Yeah, I'll go. I think the Hitman 3 review is of course, required or not required reading. Get Rekt. It's a candidate for that. But I do have a feature that by the time this podcast comes out should be out, or if not out within, hours of this coming out. I've got some kind of like a beginner's guide on how to kind of approach Hitman. Maybe you're a fan of the series, but you were like me. I was very bad at those games for a long time, even though I enjoyed playing them. And just kind of like collected some tips on, how to, play a little more stealthy and not get caught, that kind of stuff. So if you're interested, maybe you're, checking out Hitman for the first time in a while, go give that a shot.
Great. Leanna, what about you?
I want to recommend Marcus Stewart wrote a really awesome article about upcoming game starting protagonists of color. And he is not saying it from a perspective of we don't want white people starring in games. He didn't say it as an attack mode. It was just a very beautiful talk about what he would like to see in the future of games and what games are already coming out that have people of color as the person of interest. And I think it was a really nice perspective from him, and a lot of our readers will be able to resonate with that. It wasn't anything hateful. It was very positive. And all it does is expand the world of gaming, which we should all want as gamers, is more ways to experience different stories. And I thought it was really great.
Yeah, it was a very good article and worth checking out. And it's on one of those articles too where you're like, oh man, I'm gonna have to stay away from the comments from that section.
Do not look at the comments.
And you should. And how sad is that people are like, it doesn't make any sense because there's no reason to like go in and complain about this kind of thing. So anyway, go read the article.
Mentality. Everything is a zero-sum game where it's like if someone else gets something, you're taking it away from me. Which, whatever.
Which welcome to what it feels like to be a person of color and never get to see yourself in the characters you're playing. Sucks, doesn't it? That was controversial. Sorry, feel free to cut that.
Well, I don't think any of us disagree. But Cork, what do you want to recommend?
Yeah, I really like Path of Exile, but I play on console. So what'll happen is the typical cadence is Grinding Gear will release like a massive video about what's coming to the next league, and then I'll have to wait that weird week between when it's released on PC and then when it finally makes its way over to PlayStation. So in the meantime, Dan Tack wrote a really nice kind of overview, which is, I appreciate it because it's more from like a player perspective rather than the developer showing you what is interesting. We demand that you find this interesting kind of a thing. So it's, I played Path of Exile, Echoes of the Atlas all weekend and have no regrets. So it's one of those, read it, loved it, gave me something to look forward to. I think this is comes out on Friday, so tomorrow for all of us lame console people. So here you go.
He's making me want to get back into Path of Exile with that piece. Like,
don't do it. If you're not back in, don't do it.
I I escaped somehow, but he's bringing me back in.
You have so much to
Damn it,
live
Daniel.
for. All right, well, that wraps up our show, guys. Thanks for watching and listening to this episode of the show. We really appreciate it. Please like and subscribe, or subscribe to the magazine. We also appreciate that. And also, pretty please come back next week, because we'll have another episode for you. Until then, game on, everyone.
Bye.
All right, welcome back to the Game Informer Show. I'm joined here today by Alex Van Aken. You're hanging around, right?
Yeah, I'm here.
You're sticking around. You're not going to leave halfway through this?
No.
Storm out in a huff? Because we have two special guests, and I want you to treat them right.
We'll do.
Joined with us today, we have Mattias Engström, the game director for Hitman 3. How's it going, Mattias?
Hello.
And we have... Great. And we have Forest Swartout Large, the executive producer for IO Interactive. How you doing?
Good. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having us, and thank you for making a game. The game of the week, I would say, just came out yesterday. How are you guys feeling about it?
Feeling pretty damn great, I have to say. Exciting, bit nervous. Yeah, it's a good time.
I want to.
Yeah, I promised the release team that I wouldn't celebrate out of solidarity. You know, the reviews are coming in and we're feeling happy, joyful reading them. But no celebration will happen until we know that, everything is live, set up correctly, and working.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, I was going to just peel back the curtain, even though people are listening to this and the game's already out. We're recording it like hours away from the game going live. How do you feel like moments before it's live? Like, is there a lot of work for you guys to do at this point? Or is it just sort of like that tense feeling of like knowing something's big is about to happen and it's just counting down the seconds?
It's pretty crazy. We have over 120 products that had to be set up.
Oh, wow.
That are releasing. So we have a very nervous release manager who's crossing his fingers and toes and hoping that he set everything up correctly. And I know that our online team, the programmers and our producer Rasmus has been working around the clock for the last few days, just making sure that the servers are happy and ready to go.
Yeah, Mattias, are you busy at this point, or is it most of your work's done and you're just like, I can't wait to read the reviews?
I've been done for a while with my part of the work. So now I'm just exciting reading the reviews, and it's gonna spend the next couple of weeks reading the comments and searching for the favorite moments, and just enjoying all the feedback.
That's awesome. Now, I just want to know a little bit about you guys' personal history. Were you guys with the studio back when you released the original, not the original Hitman, but the start of this trilogy in 2016? Yes, you're shaking your head. Just for our audio listeners.
We were both there for that journey.
Yeah, and it's been a crazy journey. How different does it feel just from the release of that game to this?
It was such a different way of releasing a game that we did back then, with all of it being episodic, and when you were sort of drip feeding an entire campaign, and with all the highs and lows that came with that, doing something a bit controversial, and you had this steady flow of we're not done. When you release a game and it's all there, you kind of set it, put it in the water, and it's we have the live tail, but it's mostly there. Like there it goes on the live tail, or on the when you do is the episodically. It's just such you're not done. Like you ship a mission, and then you have to go. Of course, everything is being worked on at the same time, but you cannot say, hey, I shipped this level and now I'm gonna be done. You move on to the next one and help out the other designers and workers and colleagues to ship the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one. So it's pretty exhausting. That's a difference for sure.
Yeah. When I started at IO almost 5 years ago, I started in the spring of 2016 during the release, actually, the episodic release. And I arrived and it was just basically like, welcome. Your first assignment is to take the Marrakesh level from bug fixing to branch to submission. We're so glad you're here because we're really busy and kind of tired. So take your fresh energy, because I was new into the studio at the time. I hadn't been on the multi-year journey of, really doing the soft reboot and all the work that entails, and then the initial launch. So I came in partway through and then just, really helped, bring it over the finish line. But it was quite challenging to do the continuous releases. A fun fact about bugs actually is that we fixed 50% of the bugs after we released the game, because 50% of the bugs were reported after the release.
Oh, wow.
And we're talking, tens of thousands of bugs had been fixed before release. So I'm not saying like there was no bug fixing. I'm saying there was a ton of bug fixing before release, but then you put it out into the wild and you get community reports and people doing all kinds of crazy things with the systems that we never imagined or never wrote test cases for. Okay. And then we learned about the way that different people play the games. And then we, did more bug fixing. So it's been a long journey. It's been like ever since I joined on the Marrakesh. And that's a funny connection between Mattias and I, because he was the main level designer on Marrakesh. It's just felt like a wild ride ever since.
Yes.
Just very busy and very productive, I would say.
Yeah. Well, I mean, speaking of like fixing bugs, like after the game's out and you're looking at stuff, there's kind of a line there of like, well, this technically isn't how it's supposed to work, but they're having fun with it. So do we fix this? Like, do you run into a lot of instances like that?
For sure.
Yes.
We asked, like, is it a bug or a feature?
Definitely. We have fixed a ton of both design choices and bugs along the way. Like when we shipped the game, the vision cone of all the NPCs was just stuck on the chest of all the NPCs, and even if they did the head turn, that wouldn't follow, which made the AI look really, really stupid. Now we fixed that along the way. We did it a little bit too harshly, so meaning that suddenly some of our puzzles, they didn't really work anymore because they would suddenly do a random turn, because that's how our animation system works, and then they would spot you where they wouldn't spot you before. And so obviously a lot of players were pretty mad, and rightly so, I have to say. Then we went in and we fixed that as well. So we kind of tweaked the vision cone if you turn around, if you're close enough, and we made sure to make it more playable with that system in place. So there's been some rides on the systemic level as well. Sure.
I know
one of
the. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Forrest.
We do have a process where we actually are constantly scrubbing the forums and comments and pulling out any reported bugs. They go into our bug database. We triage them. We check the severity and we prioritize them. And we really try, unless we can't fix it truly, or unless it's by design, we really try to make an effort to fix every single bug.
And kind of moving towards, Mattias, you mentioned the AI. One of the things that I think makes it, even when there's silly things that happen like that, where, this AI is behaving sort of abnormally, there's always like, these little threads and stories and voice dialogues that really kind of humanize the AI and make you stick around and be like, wait, what is he talking about? I was just curious, like how much of that how much work goes into, all of those voice lines. And also, like, even if you want to tie it to, the bug fixes, is there ever a point where, like, those little sub stories that are happening throughout the map, cause issues somewhere else in the map, in the system?
There is so much work that goes into the dialogue in this game. You will not believe it. It's pretty staggering. First and foremost, on the ambience layer, when you're just walking around the map and you can hear all the conversations, those are all they are non-systemic, right? Like they're just something that is mostly bespoke for those missions. Yeah. And I mean, they need to be, because we have just a certain amount of voice actors, and they need to be written so they fit with the systemics, and it can't be too far away from how the systemics are written, of course, because that would be jarring. And we have some of those situations where it becomes a little bit misaligned, the systemics and the ambience layer. But I think it's a balance, definitely.
Sure. Well, speaking of like just sandboxes in general, like all your levels in the Hitman series are just interesting sandboxes where you can like go and play and explore.
Yeah.
And I think some people who play the game probably play through one level once and play through a story mission, and that's all they see. But can you talk a little bit about all the detailed work you put into a level and why you feel like it's worth it when some people just miss 90% of a level?
I mean, it's of course we'd like it. The game is made in a way where people are supposed to go back and find new things and explore and discover and become better and just master. But I mean, if people are happy with going in and doing it once and moving forward with the story, I think that's okay. And if they say, hey, this isn't for me, I want 15 levels and I want just more linear or whatever, I think that's fine too. It's okay to not to prefer that, but we of course we have our design and we are happy with it. And yeah, there is just incredible amount of passion and love in the whole team into making these locations feel real and atmospheric and provide the player with just tons of puzzles to engage with. Yeah.
Did any of the artists or designers try to sneak things into the levels that you discover? You're like, wait a minute, how'd that get in here?
Of course, all the time. But it's all good stuff. Like it's that's passion. That's like what you want to do. I did that when I was working more hands-on with the game as well. If you feel like you own something, then there's going to be so much love and creativity put into it. So.
And Forest, maybe.
Yeah, and this time around.
Oh, go for it.
Sorry, go ahead.
You're going to answer the question I was about to ask.
I was just going to say, yeah, well, maybe not. Let's see. This time around, we went much lighter on the guidance. In the two previous games, we guided the mission stories, or what we originally called opportunities, much heavier. So this time, players will see fewer guided mission stories in our locations. We even have some missions that have no guidance. You have to purely observe and puzzle and sleuth out, what you want to do as the player. But I would say, there's a ton of unguided mission stories that are there to be found. So even though there's only, 3 and 4 of the missions, three guided mission stories and 4 of the missions, there's a lot more that are part of the missions. We've just hidden them away. They're just much deeper in the locations and in the missions.
Yeah. What made you guys want to, hide those and not keep them front facing on that checkbox, let's say?
It's part of the exploration phase, part of making sure or just encourage our players to engage with the sandbox and environments on a more immersive level, and rather than. I think the mission stories are awesome, and they provide the players with a great way to kind of get a hold of the map. But if you find those things yourself by not being guided, I think there's a high reward in doing that.
And in terms of these unguided mission stories, I'm thinking of examples from the first mission. So, people might be coming and listening to this podcast. They haven't beaten the game yet. Would an example of those be, no spoilers, but, perhaps like a golf ball in Dubai? Is that like an example of an unguided mission story?
Definitely.
Okay. Yeah. Just so we're grasping it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There's a lot of those then.
Yes.
For people who really love to 100% it, are they going to have an easy time going through the checklist and hitting everything? Are they going to be able to like somehow track their progress in knowing how they get everything done,
I think it won't probably be as much of a grind as the previous games. I think we had some feedback on that before. I think it will be, there's going to be a lot of game to do that, but I think it's manageable.
Sure.
And a ton of fun.
One thing that I'm super curious to see how is received is the playstyle celebration.
Right.
Because we're not upfront in the game about what the different playstyles are. You just unlock them based on how you played. So it'll be interesting to see how quickly people discover them.
Sure. Great. Well, I'd love to talk about a certain play style I like to call absurd comedy playstyle, where you just like do the stupidest thing and like you win. I think just to talk about comedy in general in games, I think some people see Hitman and they're like, oh, it's an assassin game. It's like got a serious story, and it does. But then like layered inside that is all this like absurd humor where you can like throw bananas and kill people with bananas. So it's. Can you talk to like how you guys work to include comedy in this game, and can you ever cross a line? Is anything too absurd to do in this universe?
Yeah, probably. But I mean, we definitely think about it all the time, and I think it's part of the DNA of this trilogy. Some of it we do writing, like we have some fourth wall moments almost, and some just straight on slapstick or deadpan. But I think most of it comes from the players and the sandbox and all of you mentioned the banana. We just put the banana there, and then we let the players have the fun moments themselves by just poking the systems and putting it out on YouTube, and everyone's laughing.
I think we really trust the players. So it's really just about creating these items and sort of setting up the players to do what they want. And I think it's also about us trusting the game systems, that the systems of the game will hold up for all these wacky moments and whatnot. I will say that there are some individuals on the team that are just hilarious. Really, really funny sense of humor. I mean, I have so many moments where like I'm trying to go to sleep and then I just start laughing because it's like a joke or a moment has sort of clicked for me, or like I'm revisiting that moment. Yeah. So I think it's definitely a combo of our hilarious players and some hilarious members of the team.
And I think even some of our bugs are just extremely funny and makes you laugh.
Any good examples of that?
We have an amazing bloopers reel, actually, that we just got.
Is that going to be in the game?
It's so good. We have to figure out what to do with it,
and it's
put it up a lot. It's a lot of bugs. Yes. So I think we should hold it back because maybe some community members will find them themselves, and
put it up on
that'll
YouTube
be
later.
Hilarious.
Yeah. I mean, the homing briefcase that we discovered, or our players discovered on Hitman 2, is that's a bug, but it's extremely funny when you do the homing briefcase following a poor NPC around the corner. We fixed the bug, but then of course we gotta have it in, so we introduced another briefcase that has that.
That actually has that feature.
Yes.
That's amazing. Well, the game, at least some people have already been playing the game. Do you have any like highlight videos, anything you've seen of people playing Hitman 3 yet that really surprised you or that you just think was awesome?
Yeah, but I mean, there is, I don't know his name. There is a YouTuber who he's making this insane, he's like a glitchmeister, incredible way of breaking the game and putting together videos. I can't remember his name.
This is a long shot. This is a shot in the dark. Is it Stealth Gamer BR? Because
yeah, and then 2277.
Yes. Yeah. He's one of my favorite YouTubers. Yes.
What the hell? He is, the things he will do with the game, you go like, holy shit.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what he does with Hitman.
Yes,
3.
same here. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, let's check that one out. That sounds good. Well, I'd love to back up. Just we were talking about the 2016 game. When you guys were working on that, did you have in mind that someday this will be a trilogy? Was there an end point in sight back when you were working on that game even?
It was always going to be a trilogy. Yep.
Really? And so did, like even the story-wise, did you know like kind of the ending?
I think I'm not going to speak for Christian and Michael who started to scribble down the first notes on what it would mean, but I of course we developed this together, and I think when they look back at when it all started, we are closing in a way where maybe it's not the exact thing that they talked about, but it's definitely giving closure to what they started. Yes.
Yeah, that's amazing. So in 2017, pretty famously, you guys split from Square Enix, but you retained the Hitman license, which was cool. Did that allow you guys to do anything different with the brand that you felt maybe constrained by before, or did that give you any new freedoms?
I think creatively, it didn't really change much because IO was founded as an independent studio, and it's always had an independent creative spirit. So I think creatively, yeah, it wouldn't have changed anything. I think on the publishing side and on the release side, it's certainly made things, I would say, yeah, easier and harder, but the main thing is just the feeling of being in charge of our own destiny. I think that's the big difference. It's not about creative choices. It's just more like we're in control. Like we are the makers of our destiny, and our fate is in our hands.
Yeah,
and that's daunting, and it's empowering. It's scary. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves, So
yeah, for sure.
I think that's more what it's about.
That's awesome. Speaking of Hitman 3 again, you guys introduced VR for this one, so you can play the game in VR in PlayStation VR when it comes out on PlayStation. I presume it'll be available for PC down the road, but what went into making this game in VR? Did anything surprise you when you were working on the VR version?
The amount of work it takes.
What made you want to do it then? If it was so much work, what made it worth it?
I mean, I can. We had VR enthusiasts, and so it's sheer passion from them. And I think when they made the first builds and the first time, like, was pretty crap. But just going in and seeing Hitman in VR for the first time, you kind of go, okay, this just needs to happen. Like
There's potential.
Yeah, like wow. Forrest mentioned before that I was working on Marrakesh, and the first time, so I've been there in that mission and that location so many times in so many hours, but visiting it in VR, it's like, Jesus Christ, I'm actually here. And that feeling is pretty strong. So yeah, it had to happen.
Yeah, I mean, oh man, for VR, we had to retouch every interaction, and it was it's impressive how many bespoke set pieces and interactions and moments and features we have in the game. I think honestly, I think we kind of forgot, because it is such a systems heavy game. I think we forgot all that bespoke work that we did for the previous two outings. And really, like, we did it because but I'm really proud of the results. And, we had every discipline working hard on the VR, mode. So really looking forward to see how people receive it.
Yeah, well, did playing it in VR reveal anything special about the game, or like just having that new perspective on it? Did you guys like realize, oh wait, this part of this level, like I never saw it from here before?
Well, I think for me it's when you play in third person, you don't see all of the bugs, I would say, on how some props are placed. Like if a prop is hovering just a couple of centimeters, no one will see it and no one will report it as a bug. But when you play it in VR, you're not going to get away with that, because then you're going to have that's going to fly. Like, yeah, it's floating in the air. I can see it. So that was for me like, whoa, we were going to have to do 2 or 3 extra passes of bug fixing just to make this look as it should.
Yeah. Yeah. Does that make you guys want to make a VR game ever again?
Definitely.
Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, Alex, you've played the game. Any like questions? Speaking of somebody who's basically played the thing.
Yeah. I think for me, we were talking before this interview. My favorite mission is a mission in China in the game, and it is just sprawling and open and so complex. When you're approaching Hitman 3, was there rather a spirit or a mood within the team? It's like, we really have to go all out. It's the final game of the trilogy. Early on, do you have early on in the development, do you have okay, we need a level this big and this complex to kind of show off like all of our systems, and like what's that kind of look like when you're approaching the last game in a trilogy?
I think there was a sense of we're doing Hitman 3 and we're doing the last game in the trilogy that made everyone be as sharp as they could. And of course, there's a level of mastery as well, because we know our system so well. And that just made it possible for us to go above and beyond in terms of creativity and how we layouts and mission objectives and making that as special and unique as possible throughout the campaign.
And the campaign, it has 6 missions in Hitman 3. Did you guys kind of have a clear picture? I know we kind of talked about overarching story, but how do you figure out the sequencing of the missions? Like which mission goes where? Is that pretty clear cut from the start, or is that something that kind of ebbs and flows throughout production?
No, I think it was pretty clear from the start. Wouldn't you say, for us? Like, where we knew actually where we wanted to end, and then we had this like an emotional journey where we tried to fit each and every location with keywords. And this mission is going to be about loneliness, and this is going to be a mystery. This is going to and tragedy. This is going to be about melancholy and nostalgia. And so these keywords were plotted out throughout the campaign, and some of them had like it's going to be this type of structure, like maze-like city. It's going to be more flat and vertical. And then around these keywords, we built the game and different locations and different scenarios that were pitched to fit within these keywords, and that's how it was made.
Yeah, and it's really, the team is so skillful and so creative and so passionate. So it was really important to us that we create a framework within which the team could work and play and explore and help define what the product would be. It would have been a huge mistake to just say, we're doing China and it's going to be like this, and here's the layout, and just make it, because the team brings so much to the table. So it really did. It's what Mattias said. It really did start with an emotional arc, and then we fleshed out, tonal shifts and other things. Also in terms of every mission and every location, we want to offer at least one twist, something new, and a gameplay twist.
Yes.
And we also engage the team as well. They're the experts in their crafts. We engage the team in defining what that is, first exploring and then defining what that is together. Yeah.
We talked about those secret missions. Is there anything you want to tease for people who are playing the game? Like, hey, definitely seek this out.
No, I will advise everyone should play as they want to, but I
If they want.
advise how they want to, and anyway, like save scum, do whatever. But I think key to the good experience is being patient and explore slowly. Take your time, listen to NPCs, just soak in the atmosphere and try to figure things out by yourself. I think that's I think is the strength of the game, and when players get into that mindset, I think that's when you get rewarded the most.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I know you guys have a game to launch, so we should let you go. But any final thoughts? Anything you want to say to people before they play the game?
Enjoy it, have fun, go in, explore, and just I hope everyone have as much fun playing it as we have had making it.
Well, it's probably they'll have more fun because I'm sure making a game is hard and kind of a pain in the ass sometimes.
Sure, it can be a pain in the ass.
But thank you for putting all that work into it. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Oh, well, cool. Well, appreciate it, Forest and Mattias. Thanks for joining us on the GI Show, and thanks for watching or listening to this episode of the show. We really appreciate it. Please like and subscribe to the magazine, or whatever you do, come back next week where we'll have another episode for you. Until then, game on, everyone.